I'm so excited to talk to you today about the money codes. And I'm going to start with just a story to get into how I have sort of stumbled upon this technology, as we might call it, this new tool methodology that I have been helping my clients with. And it really starts with just recognizing years ago that I had a very jacked up relationship when it came to money. And I'm curious if you're watching this, if you can relate to that. Tell me about it in the chat. I grew up with two awesome parents who were working really hard all the time and making it possible for my brother and I to live the life that we were living and to, do our sports and do all these different things. But there was always this incredible tension as it related to money. And there was a belief that it just was the way that it was. And I remember being a small person and thinking to myself, I'm not sure if that's the universal truth that, every single person on the planet just struggles with money and the struggle is ever present and persistent and just like this is the way it is. And so I got really curious. And I remember as a kid just noticing the neighbors and noticing the other parents at the soccer field and thinking to myself, like, there has to be another way to do this. Like, there has to be another realm of thinking available. And yet, I wouldn't get to really start to understand this and unpack this and look at this and examine and study this until many, many, many years later. I remember back in I think it was about 2015. I was about a little over a year into my business, maybe, yeah, around a year-ish. And I remember standing upstairs in our master bedroom and feeling this like absolute waterfall of panic just like take over my body. And the room started to spin. And I remember standing there thinking, I am going to ruin my family financially. I have chosen this entrepreneurial path and I have no guarantees as to whether or not this is going to work. And it's going to be all my fault. And it was a really intense moment. And I'll never forget it, the sensations in my body. And I would continue going onward from that moment, sort of like talking myself off the ledge and then launching things and having my business work and then kind of like having these reprises of this emotional wave of fear and terror as it related to money. And I remember in late 2017 sitting in what was now my new house, because we had bought this house and moved out of that house that I had that mild panic attack in, and sitting in my office and then thinking to myself, if there was one thing that I could like wave a magic wand over and like fix it in my world, in my work, what would that one thing be? And I'm curious what your answer would be. I'm curious if you have an answer to that question right now in your life and in your business. Like, what would that one thing be? The answer to that question for me in 2017 was money. I remember thinking to myself, because I had been somebody who was like studying books and reading all these things about money consciousness and stuff. I'd watched The Secret. And I remember thinking to myself, like, there's got to be a better way. And what I know is this way that I'm living, because in 2017, things had changed dramatically. My business was doing a lot better. There was financially, like, we had gone through a lot, but it just still felt like this ever-present tension under the surface. And I'm curious if you guys can relate to this, that, it doesn't matter how much you continue to grow on your journey, there's still this like anchored feeling around this particular topic. And that was the case for me. And so I decided to go all in and study everything I could possibly study, read every book under the sun as it related to money consciousness and money mindset. Because what I realized was it wasn't so much like a dollars and cents thing of like, we need to do better with our budgeting or our spreadsheets or any of those things. And like that goes without saying. That's not what I'm going to teach and talk about today. But that is something that I highly, highly, highly recommend for everybody to make sure that you know what your numbers are, that you have your numbers mapped out. If you don't, my suspicion typically is that there's a reason for that. And usually the reason for that is that you're going to have to sort of like face the music and have to meet some of these money code patterns that are sort of embedded in that exercise. But moreover, like, we do need to know this because it's like a basic tenet of life. And then once you know what your right number is, you can reverse engineer that from there. You can build a right-sized business model. That's a different conversation. But this is what I coach on, is helping people build right-sized businesses that actually work for their life and help them scale what matters most to them. But back to this money piece. What I realized was there's something going on in my hard drive. And so I ended up writing the book, Master Your Money Mind, which is available on Amazon. And I put that out and I shared everything that I learned. And really the major tenets of what I shared in that book was, your money problems are not necessarily about money. They're about you. And it brings me to the sentence that I'm going to say to you. And that is, money is an effect and you are cause. And when you understand that that's actually the true positioning, most people live their entire life the opposite way around, that money is the cause and this is why I must suffer. And money works like this, and this is why our life is designed this way, and this is why our marriage is like this, and this is why I can't get out of this job, and so on and so forth. And you might have some sentences that, drop into your mind here about things that you have experienced in your own childhood or in your own life journey. Maybe you say those sentences today. But when you flip those two things around and you start to realize that you are the one who is the cause, and that the beliefs that you think and the wiring that's operating inside of your personal hard drive is making way for what comes next, you start to function a lot differently. And when you get this, you can start to work with what I call the money codes, which are the safety, security programs, patterns that underlie our experiences of money and inform our behaviors, our actions, and our responses to life, right? And in our business and in all these places. They're learned safety patterns that our nervous system is running as it relates to the topic of money. Okay. And when you start to get this and like how these dots connect, you start to look at this topic of business growth, of what's possible for you inside of your business, how money's working in your business, like really everything from a completely different vantage point. And you start to realize that, you have these adaptive, predictive neural pathways, right? These forms of adaptive intelligence that are based on the past experiences that you've lived through that create this safety response, right? It's like, you're a little kid and you ask your dad to give you, $1 to buy a candy bar. And he goes, money doesn't grow on trees. Or what do you think? I'm made of money. And you feel like instantaneously like, oh, I was just, I'm not allowed to ask for things. And so that little tiny innocuous moment where your dad like maybe doesn't have $1 in his back pocket or he doesn't want you to have the candy, but he's saying that ingrains into you. It like goes into your cells and it leaves you feeling like ashamed, right? Or like a burden when you ask for money. And so then you stop asking for money and you stop, you quit on it. And it's one of those things that, it's so innocuous and it seems like it's not a big deal, but it's wiring us in real time. And that wiring is ultimately what we live today. And it becomes the patterns that inform all of the decisions we make about, what we're going to do in our business next and what action we're going to take. And so when I started doing this real deep repatterning work and started to actually connect the dots on how these patterns were playing out in my lived reality, most especially in my business, because entrepreneurship is like basically pulling back the veil, right? It's like, woo, the woman behind the curtain, and here she is. It makes you look at every single thing and actually have to take ownership for it. It showed me that I had a lot of this safety security patterning that was keeping me from experiencing money in the way that I really needed to experience money if I wanted to grow in my business, if I wanted to build a viable business, if I wanted to be able to serve and help at the highest level. And so what I love so much about this work and getting to do this privately with my clients, because I do private money code sessions with my business coaching clients, is that every single person is wired differently and everybody comes through with like a different set of stories and experiences that create these patterns that are directly correlated to, and this is maybe going to surprise you, why they chose to do their business in the first place. And the thing that is like it's just so awe-inspiring to me, is realizing that money can become a tool to create entire new worlds of existence and possibility. And I think of my own personal story and everything that I've been able to do over the last 12 years, building a tree house, building the house for my family, supporting our adoption journey, our infertility journey, making big donations to causes that are really important to us, going on trips with family, supporting people, paying for my team's salaries every month, like so many things. Money has been an incredible tool. And my business has been the catalyst to create more financial resource in my world. And it's just such a cool thing. But what I want you to hear me say is if you have these sort of challenging money codes, if you have these stories about money, and if I say the word money to you and it makes your stomach and it's something that you have a hard time talking about, you have some patterning that needs some attention because what's happening is you're bringing it into your business. And the very thing that your business is meant to help you do, the money code is actually like clamping down and making it difficult for you to actually do that. And so I like to bring people through a process of asking them questions and helping them look at a specific money code and then helping them sort of like unravel it. So what I wanted to do today with you all, those that are watching this, whether you're watching live or with the replay, is ask you a couple questions to help you look at a money code that's existent right now in your world, in your sphere, in your energy, and how you're actually showing up in your life around this particular topic that we can be so bajiggity about, one of my very formal terms that I like to use. And so I'm going to ask you a question. And if you want to play along, you can totally journal about this, or you can just put it in the chat for me and we can have a dialogue on it. The first question for you to tap into is, what did you learn to exchange for attention or love as a kid? Okay. So like go back in your memory, go back to who you were as a small person. And I'll ask it in a different way. Like, who did you have to be in order to receive love or attention? And this is obviously a very charged question. For some people, they're like, nobody talked about love in my house growing up. Okay. Sub out that word love for like attention or being noticed. There's some people who have said to me, I actually didn't want attention. Like I didn't want attention because it wasn't safe when I got attention. It's like, okay, so that's actually your answer, right? That in and of itself is like, uh, in order to, who did I have to be in order to get love and attention? In order to feel love and attention, to feel safe, we'll just go that. Who did I have to be feel safe? I had to just like disappear. Okay. So whatever your answer to that is, like answer that question. Okay. Bree says the good girl. So like the good girl doing all the right things. Anybody else want to share? Feel free to pop it in the chat. The second question is, how did that shape who you have become? How did that shape who you have become? Bree says good and obedient. Okay. Thanks, you guys. Lucia says obedient. So being the good girl or being obedient, how did that shape who you have become as a person? It made me live by everyone else's rules. It made me like reference everybody else before myself, right? It put me in the position of being a watcher, a perceiver, feeling everybody else's energy in the room before I even had any perception of how I felt, putting everybody else's preferences above my own. Made me believe that authority was external. Yeah, Liz. Yeah. Really good. These are great shares. So those who are just joining, we're asking the second question in the relationship to the money codes. The first question is essentially, who did you have to be in order to feel safe as a child? The second is, how did that shape who you have become? Bree said, I used to follow the rules unconsciously. I'm releasing that. So good. Okay, and the third question, this might seem like it's a little bit offbeat, but we're gonna bring these things back together. Why did you create your business? Why did you create your business? Love to know. My answers to these questions, so I feel like this is helpful to divulge this and share this with you because this process has been actually really, really helpful. I actually was rewriting it out last night again. Um, so I had to be, yes, compliant, had to follow the rules. I had to dim my light. I had to basically, like, in many cases, not have needs. I just had to kind of acquiesce. Um, And how that shaped who I've become is essentially not having needs or putting my needs in the back seat, um, fully devoting myself to what everybody else needs. And just like in this, the other one was like being able to sort of like commiserate and be in suffering. So for a long time, I was in relationships with people that were just like always complaining, always in victim consciousness. And I realized at a certain point, like, this is exhausting. I don't want to live my life like this. Okay. Um, and so why did I create my business? Well, I created my business because I wanted to live a different version of reality. And I wanted to test out the possibilities, like essentially the thesis that I had that I don't think that this perpetual suffering and struggle, especially as it relates to money, is the universal truth. And I'm going to go prove that there's a different model. And And I'm gonna go prove that there's a different model and then share that with people and help people. Because I just don't feel like if we take this, like, all the way back around, that kids should have to live their entire life feeling the pain and the suffering of their parents, that that the pain and suffering of parents who are in this constant money strife and struggle impacts families and dynamics in families, and there has to be another way. And so I've tested that and I've proven it, and it's the reality that I live in now, and it's what I teach. It's why I'm just like voraciously always reading these kinds of books, always delving into things in the depths. That's why I've written multiple books about money mindsets, why I teach classes about it. And it's why right now in this time space reality, as a business mentor and somebody who works very closely with high capacity leaders, entrepreneurs, people who are building worlds inside of worlds and helping people in profound ways, that this subject of money itself needed to sort of be like popped out and brought to the surface. Because I think that we spend a lot of time focusing so much on what we're doing in our businesses in order to drive more sales and to bring more money in, all the while not actually naming the fact that we have a very dysfunctional relationship with money. And I had this, again, another theory. And in the last couple months, I've been really paying exquisite attention to the relationship my clients have with the topic of money itself. And what I've noticed over and over and over again were these persistent safety and security patterns. And how these safety and security patterns are coming up in people's essential operating systems, their hard drives, right? And making it impossible for them to be of service or in service in their careers, whether that's as an entrepreneur or, yes, being in a corporate job or wherever where they're trying to grow. I do have clients that are in corporate careers, like in corporate structures, but they have entrepreneurial businesses that they're doing together. And for some of these folks, it's like their actual design. I have one client who just said to me this week, I just got like 2.5 bonuses. What? Like, it's more money than I've ever experienced in my corporate job. She has been there for a long time. She's really good at her job. She likes it. And she loves her breathwork facilitation. She loves her leadership coaching and training. She loves her women's entrepreneurial network that she's a part of. And so, our focus has been on helping her maximize her personal model. And that includes her staying in her corporate job. So at the end of the day, it's not really about whether you're an entrepreneur or not, but it's about how you have decided to activate your money codes in your life in the way in which you're doing money. And what I've seen so much is that we can't actually enjoy it. We can't actually reap the rewards and have the full benefit of the effect of money itself, if we are the cause operating from this place of this collapse and this dysfunction when it comes to this topic specifically. And so my vision is helping people get free and helping people understand that their money codes meet at the intersection of their story, essentially. So like their identity about themselves, like what they believe about themselves, their perception of safety, and the strategies that they are operating inside of their life, in their business, in their career. But for the sake of my entrepreneurs, at the intersection of how you're operating in your business. And these things are symbiotic, and ultimately they're impacting and affecting the results that you are experiencing in your life. And so for those of you that shared, thank you so much so generously here in the comments, that, I had to live by everybody else's rules, that authority was external, that I had to be obedient. Every single one of these things that you shared are a mirror for how you then approach your business and how you are operating inside of the operating system of your business when it comes to marketing, when it comes to sales, when it comes to offers, when it comes to pricing, when it comes to the whole ecosystem of all the things that you're doing. And when you really start to understand that this is how this works, that there is what I'm calling a money code at work, you can call it anything you want, but these are these foundational patterns that are wired into us as a form of adaptive intelligence that has helped us survive up until this point. You can actually start to piece these things out and say, wow, okay, how would I do this differently going forward? How would I take that feeling of being too much or having too big of a need, right? Being a burden, and then flip it upside down and then create a new rule set for myself. So like for me, it would be no income ceiling, enjoying my life, centering my family over money, and understanding that building and designing my business to work with how I want to live my life, which coincidentally, as a mom of a 3 and a 12-year-old child, 2 children, looks like working 3 days a week and taking clients the way that I take clients, and taking my daughter, at least because she's a homeschooling kid, with me when I go to speaking events, and spending more time together than apart actually works really well for my business and for my life. And it brings me great joy. And so I'm not saying to the universe or to my business model or to myself, you must delay your joy. Money requires you to suffer. So therefore you have to go work. Then you can have fun in your life. No, I've actually put it all together, and I love my business and I love my work. I did a VIP day today with my friend Troy, his amazing media company called Tico Stories. And we came up with a super incredible multi-6-figure business idea for him to weave into his operating system of how he's doing things. It was amazing. It was so much fun. I love that creativity. I love getting to, do legacy work with my clients. But what I really want you to hear me say is that there's nothing wrong with you if this is coming up and you're feeling like you have this perpetual struggle with this topic. If anything, that's everything that's right with you. And when we start to make ourselves right for the struggles that we have, because what it is essentially a mirror to show us a place for growth, evolution, development, new wiring, we give ourselves a huge leg up on the path to creating real, lasting, bona fide change. And so I want to offer you guys something really fun today. This is literally hot off the press. My team and I have put together a quiz called the Money Codes Quiz. And I'm going to type the URL for it into the chat. I don't know if this will work, but I'm going to put it in here. We just finished this. I just ran through. Okay, let's see if that works. I'm going to, actually, it might be called Money Quiz. Hold on. I think it's called Money Quiz. Hold, please. Yeah, that's what it's called. Okay, hold on. I don't think I can delete that. Ignore that, but go to this one. You might have to copy and paste it. I don't know. I'm new here to this Substack live situation, but it's amberlilyestrom.com/money quiz. It's not even on my website yet. We need to put it up on the homepage, but go check it out, and you can take this quiz and you can learn which archetype, essentially, there are a handful of archetypes that connect to your current money code challenges. Um, and I'm so curious to see which one comes up for you. One of you actually already named one of the archetypes just in your responses. So I would say that we're pretty on point for naming it and understanding what our clients are dealing with. And I think the thing about the money codes and knowing what these codes are for you is inside of them. I'm a huge, huge fan of and student of the Gene Keys. And what Richard Rudd talks about in the Gene Keys is that each one of these keys, the shadow itself, the gift itself, the city itself, are they help recode the DNA. They help you up level your DNA. They help you change, and that's what happens. And so I bring the Gene Keys into my money code sessions. I bring it into my business coaching because I so truly believe that every one of us here has such a unique design, a unique wiring and coding. And what I want you to just get today, if you take nothing else from this conversation, is that there's nothing wrong with you. You are perfectly coded and wired exactly the way you were meant to be. It's actually the reason why you have had the impulse and the inspiration to create your business in the way that you have created it. And the real work is not necessarily in, I need to come up with a better strategy. And like that might be true, right? We might need to retool your offers. We might need to reposition your messaging. We might need to do some of that work. But we can't get to that in good conscience, honestly, in clear and clean energy until we do this code work first, because your business is intimately connected to money. And when you have a fragmented, challenged relationship to the topic of money, and yet you're trying to operate a business, you won't get very far with that wiring the way that it currently is installed in your system. And so being able to look at this and unravel it and artfully reorient yourself by asking some of these questions. And like in the money code sessions that I do privately with my clients, we go obviously much deeper, very personally, very directly to exactly where the pinpoint moment, story, challenge originates from, and then we follow that back out to see how it's playing out in your business right now. And it's been incredibly beneficial work. It's funny, my clients have been saying, they have the new saying, they say the money codes are coding. The women in Elevate have been saying that the money codes are coding, and then they're sending me screenshots of things that are just seemingly unfathomable. Honestly, I have a client this week who sent me a money codes are coding Voxer message, and I'm just going to open it. And she did a money code session, and she said, I'm coming in here to celebrate that since our first money code sessions, she was hired as a chief energetics officer at $7,000 and is going to be listed on their website as the CEO of this company. I love that, chief energetics officer, and that she was hired by a client for a retainer for $3,000. She's receiving her largest contracts to date, and she's not having issues with talking about her pricing anymore. She's just like doing it. And it's so exciting. It's so incredibly exciting. And so I feel like my integration of this and my injection of this into the mix of like all these things that we're always talking about with business growth and marketing and positioning and messaging is like, wait, hold on a second. Can we just have a quick convo about what happens in your body when I say the word money, and you think about your monthly revenue, and you think about your money goals, and you think about your monthly expenses? And like, if I'm making your stomach turn right now, I apologize for that. But also we have to talk about it. Like, we have to actually work on this, because unshaming money is liberation work for all of us. And I believe deeply, 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 okay, that if the dream is in you, it's for you. That your business is a result of the dreams that you have for your life, which are a result of the answers to the pain that you have overcome and that you have lived through. And as a result of all of that, you have created something that is here for change. And that's not just for the people that you want to help, but also for yourself and your life and your lineage and your legacy and the people that live under your roof too. And focusing on our nervous systems and focusing on our inner wiring and how we are orienting to money is a profoundly important topic. And I take this very seriously and I enjoy getting to help people with it. So I'm going to continue writing about it here on Substack. I talk about this on my podcast a lot over on iTunes and on Spotify. My podcast is called Homeward, and I'll just put the link here as well to check out the podcast. As I said to those who just joined, there is a quiz that you can go take, the Money Codes quiz, to see where that's coming up for you, what sort of themes are coming up around this subject. And if you would like to schedule a Money Codes session and you want to just go all in on that, you can just message me here on the Substack platform, or you can DM me on Instagram, or you could send a carrier pigeon with a note that says, I want to do a Money Codes session, or you could just email me, hello@amberlilyestrom.com. Okay, you guys, it's getting crazy, all the ways that we can connect with each other. It's like not even mysterious anymore, not even incognito. It's just sort of send up a flare. I appreciate you. Thank you for being here on this Substack Live. I'm really enjoying this platform so much. And in March, I'm going to start turning up the volume on my paid content and adding even more deep dive. I really want to bring a more intimate coaching conversation to this platform once a month starting in March. So those of you that are paid members, you can look forward to that. If you're not yet, I appreciate your support if you want to be part of this. And I just thank you for being part of the fam here. All right, you guys, have a wonderful weekend. Happy Valentine's Day. Love yourself. Love your money. You got this. I appreciate you. And I will see you next time. Bye, friends.